All right, here we go. March 2016. We drove 3 hours to Sacramento and pulled into the McDonald's parking lot. The shade of the leaves blowing from the light, warm breeze through the trees cast a shadow on the parking lot surface that twinkled like the letters on the back of a Sparkletts water truck. We parked the car, turned off the engine. We looked at each other and I said, "This is what we've been waiting 5 years for. Our lives are never going to be the same. Are you ready?" She said, "I've been waiting my entire life for this." I took a deep breath, I exhaled, and I said, "Let's go meet our son." We were what people would refer to online as #relationship goals. People said that we were saints for taking in a child of these extremely special needs. My mother would say, "There's a special place in heaven for you two and stars in your crowns for doing this." The boy needed us. He needed to be saved from a broken system that unfortunately failed him. We knew he just needed a chance and we could give it to him in a way that none of the other 7 previous foster homes could provide. When we walked into McDonald's to meet him, the social worker wasn't there yet, but we saw this scrawny, dirty little boy with a shaggy mullet, sunken cheeks, hollowed eyes, and torn up shoes. He was sitting so patiently in the play area with the transportation driver. The current Jehovah's Witness foster mom couldn't be bothered to drive him to meet 2 lesbians that might be adopting him. The first sight of him took my breath away. He looks like me. My wife always said she wished she could have a child that looked like me. There he was. She got so excited, she squeezed my hand and she said, "There he is, there he is." And I suddenly turned into Jules in Pulp Fiction. I said, "Be cool, bitch, be cool." His social worker walked in shortly after we did and took us straight back to the play area to meet him. We sat at the table and he ran off to play. We watched him while the social worker went to buy some French fries. She motioned him over when the fries were there and he sat down across the table from us. He grabbed a French fry and took a quick bite and looked at me and flashed a sly smile. In a raspy little voice, he said, "Yummy." When it was time for our visit to end, I leaned over to give him a hug and he literally climbed up my body and wrapped his legs around me. The social worker, the driver, and my wife all gasped, the most precious gasp. The driver said, "You know, I'm probably not supposed to say this, but he looks like he could be your son." I carried him out to the State Transportation 1997 Aerostar and put him in his seat. We hugged and kissed him goodbye. Every weekend that April, we would make the 3-hour drive to Sacramento to visit him for a day. We did an overnight in a hotel with him where we fist bumped after singing him to sleep, probably for the first time ever in his 5 years of life. We brought him to our house for a weekend. We spent lots of time in the car. We would always sing to him. He took a particular liking to take me out to the ball game. He would wiggle in his seat and he would laugh at the root for the A's part. It was adorable and it made my heart happy. Every time we had to take him back to the Jehovah's Witness foster mom, he would start whimpering in the back seat when he started to recognize the neighborhood. He would wring his little hands and start crying. He didn't have language skills, so he would hit his head on the ground outside the house. It broke our hearts every time. We finally got to bring him home to live with us on my 42nd birthday. I became a mother on May 27th, 2016 at 1:51 p.m. at the Starbucks in Tracy, California. We still had a mountain to climb before we could adopt him. I always enjoyed living by myself, and then I got used to living with someone else for 8 years, and now a third person is entering our living space. It's a lot to deal with. I never thought I even wanted kids. For a long time, I really didn't even like kids. But when I met her, she was the one I saw myself having a family with. Here was my family. We took a month off work together to bond with him, and it's really crazy what happens when a 5-year-old is plunked down into your life, because if you have a baby, you have 9 months to prepare your world. You baby-proof everything, you mentally prepare, physically prepare, and then you go to the hospital, and you have the baby, and you bring the baby home, and the baby just sits in a bassinet for like 3, 4 years? I don't know how long it takes for a kid to walk. They gave me a 5-year-old, and he can already walk. He can run, and he can jump, and he can climb up shit, and he can put car keys in the microwave on the first day and nearly kill us all! Shit! That was just the first day! On the second day, I decided to never judge people who drink in the morning. So you see, 80% of my stand-up was about me and my wife adopting a kid from foster care. And at this point in my set, I would say on the third day, I realized that postpartum depression after adoption does exist. It's called buyer's remorse, which is a damn funny joke. Just not really that funny to me anymore. All she ever wanted was to be a mom, and all I ever wanted was to be famous. She was my comedy partner, and she was his mom. This boy was put in my life for a reason, not the other way around, as corny as it sounds. We used to joke about how cheesy the Blind Side trailer was, you know, the one with the movie clip of the lady saying in the worst Southern accent ever, "You're changing that boy's life!" And then Sandra Bullock says, "No, he's changing mine." I have a special connection with him. Multiple sclerosis and autism are not the same thing, but we share similar neurological issues. I saw him in a way no one else did or could. He blindsided me. He called us both Mommy. He also called me Mama Jenny. Jenny! Which sometimes from the other room kind of sounded like Daddy. He responded to music in such an incredible way. We went from singing Itsy Bitsy Spider to Fleet Fox's White Winter Hymnal. Somehow he saw the video for Florence and the Machine, Dog Days Are Over, and he became obsessed. The video has like 104 million views on YouTube, and I swear to God, 90 million of them were my son. He would jump up and down at the loud drumming parts, and we would act out the quiet parts by shrinking down and making our voices softer. It became a wonderful bargaining chip. Oh, you want to watch Florence? Okay, well, first brush teeth, then Florence. You know, sometimes I really don't think you become a parent until the moment your nanny calls you at work screaming hysterically that she's accidentally chopped off part of your son's finger in the door, and they're in an ambulance on the way to the emergency room. So I called my wife from the car and I said, "Okay, I'll meet you at the ER in 30 minutes. He's okay, just be careful." We stayed there in the emergency room with him from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. They asked us to leave the room when he was sedated for surgery to reattach his fingertip. And we had been there so long already. We were so exhausted. When we walked into the waiting room, I looked up at the TV and I said what a dad would say. I said, "I wonder if they'll change the channel to the A's game." And she responded the way a mom would. She shrieked and she said, "How can you think of baseball when our son is in surgery?" So when he came out of sedation, we were right there. I was the first thing he saw. He looked at me through these heavy eyes that could barely open, and he slurred like a little drunkard. "There's Jenny." By the end of the year, we had a season pass to the emergency room because he's a boy. We did it together, the three of us, building our family, giving him assurance that we would be there with him through anything and everything. And over the course of an extremely challenging, exhausting year, the boy changed dramatically. He grew taller. He looked healthy and clean, 2 words that the social worker used. We had our first Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Mother's Day, his birthday, and of course we spoiled him to no end. His speech improved dramatically. Trick or treat was chi-chi-chi, and Christmas tree was chi-chi-chi. His first birthday with us was the most beautiful day, filled with so much love. All of our friends and family were there. They had been with us through all of it up to that point. Our family and chosen urban family surrounded the three of us in a semicircle as we all sang happy birthday to him. His little face lit up and he was just filled with pure joy. He smiled from ear to ear and clasped his hands together as he rocked back in his seat while everyone sang. I saw out of the corner of my eye one of our friends put her hands up to cover her mouth as she wept at this truly blissful moment. It put a huge lump in my throat that I still can't swallow. The first year was filled with so many struggles. It began to overwhelm my wife. That's the word she kept using, overwhelmed. We were both overwhelmed. But somehow her thoughts of me being a good parent started to fade, and she used my multiple sclerosis and mental illness issues against me and said that she was starting to resent me and my illnesses and made me believe something was wrong with me. She started making me second guess myself, and I started to feel like I was going crazy. Our energies were so very well connected for 9 years, and I started to feel a shift away from me. She became dead behind the eyes. She looked past me or through me instead of at me. She wouldn't make eye contact, and she would turn her head if I tried to kiss her. I felt like she was slipping away, and there was nothing I could do. My greatest fear was true. She was already gone. I fought with everything in me to hold on. They say there are 3 sides to every story. My side, her side, and the truth. Well, the truth is, everything is reconcilable up to a point. Once your spouse of 9 years says out loud they're in love with someone else, no marriage can compete with that. Without a choice, I was pushed out, shoved out, forced out of my own home, marriage, family, life. I felt like I was screaming behind a soundproof wall and nobody would listen because the one who screams the loudest is the one who's the craziest. By the time our second Christmas rolled around, I was not living in my own house. He didn't understand why I suddenly wasn't there anymore and another lady was in my place. He was so upset and confused. When I arrived on Christmas Eve, he was so excited to see me. He squealed with glee and he squished his cheeks and he was going, "Ee!" Now, I'm not an expert, but from what I understand, not all kids with autism can comprehend certain emotions such as love. I swear to God, he was saying to me, "I love you, I miss you." I heard it, I felt it. We played for a while and walked around the neighborhood to visit the inflatable decorations in our neighbors' yards. Angels' wings go up and down, dragons' wings go up and down, over and over again. We listened to music, sang and danced around the living room. His list of favorite songs kept growing. In the final months, weeks, days, certain lyrics and songs that we would hear over and over again started to sting, the way only words can. At the house that used to be my home, my son and I continued to act out the Florence video, and the quiet part in Dog Days has a line I hadn't paid much attention to before. And I never wanted anything from you, except everything you had, and what was left after that too. Oh. I did get to play t-ball in the backyard with my son on Christmas morning. He hit a home run and ran around the bases twice. I laughed and cried. He got really upset when I had to leave. He threw his entire toy chest down the stairs. I didn't know until the phone bill came that the enemy was in my house, my bed on Christmas Eve, and left just a few hours before I arrived. This was becoming way too much for him and me. I couldn't keep doing this to him. It wasn't fair to either one of us. My wife was unequivocally his mom. She's able to provide him a life that I'm physically unable to do on my own. She has more family resources than I do. I can rest easy knowing that I was a kick-ass foster mom for this little boy when he needed it most. If I hadn't been there, he wouldn't have been there either. Life happens through us, not always to us. My birthday now represents the day that I saved him. I chose to do the best thing for him and for me. I gave him to her. I gave him that gift. Thank you.